Hello, this is another part in the Homeworld Toolkit for Blender tutorial series. There's been a new release that has added some stuff. I'm just going to do a quick run through of how those all work. So, first of all, what you want to do is you want to get Blender, blender.org, etc., etc. I really recommend Blender 2.74. If you notice, this looks a bit different than in my previous tutorials. I just changed the theme. Otherwise, Blender is still exactly what it was. But Blender 2.74 seems to be a lot more stable with the Blender toolkit than 2.7.3 was. I'm not entirely sure why. But anyway, and then just go over to GitHub, and the link will be in the description of this, and grab the v1.092. And I'm going to go through what the changes are. So first off, the way we had it set up originally was that all the joint tools and stuff were in the Create panel, and there, as you can see here, I got the Create tab open, and they're not there, but there is this new tab, the Homeworld HW Joint Tools, and that's now where everything lives. I'm going to widen this panel out a bit, just so it's not quite so bad. So, I'm going to create a ship real quick. Because the other thing, the big new addition to this version is the docking paths. So we've got a tool for doing docking paths, and I'm going to go through that real quick. So do that, scale that to 30 meters. Why that cutoff is as bad as it is. Default. X. I'll just end up time lapsing this whole bit there. I'm just going to make a sort of a dumb sort of tugboat thing. Last. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so I'm not going to go to the trouble of doing UVs and textures and everything. This is going to be enough. So I'm going to do smooth shade. One thing, in my previous tutorials, what I did was I was using an edge split to make sharp edges. Don't do that. I didn't know about this because of the tutorial that I originally used to teach me Blender. Didn't cover it, but you can see over here in the vertex data tab here, there is this auto smooth button. So you click that, checkbox rather, not, and it doesn't really do anything, but when you do mark sharp, that sharpens the edges without having to do the edge split modifier. So yeah, I'm going to call that good enough for that. So now we have, in the ship creation, I added this do scar checkbox, and that adds the tags do scar to the end of the ship name. So we convert to ship, same as we did before, and that adds root lot 0 default. I probably should rename the ship, but it doesn't really matter. And then yeah, you have mult default do scar, and it also does it on the mesh data automatically. And then if I want to do a collision mesh, I just move my 3D cursor over there, keep that selected, and click copy to collision, and that automatically rotates it to the Y up Z forward orientation that it's going to have to be in later, and creates the root collision, follow root, all that stuff's in there. And then, okay, so now we need an engine. So I'm just going to do a small engine. Joint engine nozzle. Let me move that back a bit. And so we can scale that whole thing up. And then apply scale. Triangulate that mesh so I don't forget. And then, since I'm just going to be doing a straight replace of the repair Corvette, since that's the easiest thing with docking paths, so that I don't have to go through ship creation, I'm going to have to create a quick weapon 0 weapon. Whoops. Ow. I'm dumb. I messed that up. Do all that. It's supposed to be gun. Forgot about the number thing. Button. There we go. Let's scale that up a bit just so that it's more visible. And you don't really have to apply scale for empties, but that's going to be that. Alright, so now we've got our ship and engine and a weapon joint and everything else. So dock paths. So what I want is, let's deselect everything real quick. Just, oh, that's right, forgot I was going to do another thing. Edit, move this up, and because what I want is there's going to be a mirror on Z, but not on X, with clipping on. Okay. The gun back up so it's centered. Alright, so there's going to be, so basically this is going to be a Corvette docking pad here and a fighter docking pad here. So just put the 3D cursor for making an entry path. You put the 3D cursor wherever you want the path to end. So this is the actual point where it docks. And over here in docking paths, you can give it a name. I'm just going to call this path 1. And click make entry path. You can see, and that adds up here right away this whole dock empty. And then you have dock path 1, and that has all of these custom properties. So you have your family, which is your ship type. So this is going to be Corvette. Can't remember if this is case sensitive or not. You have linked paths and MAD and flags, which is flags always. And I haven't been able to find a sort of comprehensive wiki for what all the flags do. But one of the important ones for the actual dock path flags is latch. You do latch if it's something, if the ship's gonna like come in and just stick to the outside of the ship and then take off again, and you don't use latch if you don't just want the ship to fly in and like vanish, like if it's a carrier or something. And linked paths, I'm not entirely sure how those work, but I am going to link this to the exit path when I make that. And then MAD, and that, sorry, let me get some water real quick. MAD, as I wrote here, is an animation index. So for like the Kushan like support frigate or the resource controller, the way they have those little arms that animate down, that's the MAD index. You say that's basically which animation is connected to this path. So it's like, so there are the 4 animations on the Kushan support frigate, or I guess 8 animations for the Kushan support frigate that do but 2 for each arm. So mat index is essentially this arm is the one that I want animating for this thing. But since I have no animation index, I'm just gonna drop that mad property because I don't need it. So and that's the dock path. But then within the dock path, you have all the seg joints, and I have it set up so that an entry path creates 5 by default, and an exit path creates 3. If you need more, it's pretty simple. You just select the last one in the chain and Shift D, and then rename it over here. You just call it 6. And you can support 10 total, so 0 through 9 in the segs. After that, it'll start causing problems in the exporter. But I'm going to stick with 5 for now, so just delete you. Alright, so for an entry path, 5, or the last path in the last numbered seg joint in there is the endpoint. So I'm going to move this stuff to sort of create a longer path. That's just going to go straight sort of back. You know what, bear with me for a second, because as much as I like the way that this theme does all the panels and stuff, I'm not super keen on how it does the 3D background. So let's bring that up a bit, that up a bit, and yeah, I think that's better. So yeah, I'm gonna move this one. That's gonna go here. So 2 go here. 3 here. So 4. Right there. You know what? Seg 4 is going to be just right on top of, directly above Seg 5. So basically the chip will go up to here and then straight down. So now the seg points also have the custom properties. And you have flags, which are flags, and you have speed. Speed is the maximum speed that a ship can be moving when it's at this point, and tolerance is the distance in meters from the point at which it'll tell the ship that this is good enough and you could move on to the next point. So generally, like first of all, I forgot I gotta move that up, otherwise the ship's gotta clip through the thing when it docks. And then what I'm gonna do real quick is just active element, so I'll just scale that whole thing out even further. Okay. So, yeah, what was I doing? So flags they're kind of important for when you're doing a latch path. Probably the most important flag is use rot, which is use rotation, which means that the ship will match the rotation of this empty. And I'm going to get a little bit more into that in a second, because that's kind of, not a second, but a little bit, because it's, use rot, because that's going to be a factor in that engine up, nozzle up a bit. It's going to have repercussions when I do rotate the whole thing up by 90 degrees. and then apply the rotations because of the whole Y up Z up thing. So, but you want use rot. Use rot there. I'm not going to use it for the rest of the points, but just those 2 points are going to use rotation. And then, what was I doing? Tolerance. Okay, so like, it's important that the last joint in the path is going to have probably the lowest tolerance. So I'm going to put that at like 5 meters tolerance there for that to thing. And then speed is also going to be 5. And this one, I'm also going to go with a 5 and 5. And that's going to have a tolerance of 10. And speed 50 seems fine to me from there. And I'm actually going to go 10, 20, 30, 40 for the tolerance, and I'm going to leave speed at 50 for all of them. That was use rot. Then, since these don't need flags anymore, I'm going to drop them. There are other flags. There's like player and some other ones that I'm not sure how they work exactly. And they're obviously all flags are more or less optional. Alright, so then that's path 1, entry path. So I'm going to select the seg 5, cursor to selected, then I'm going to make my exit path. So that creates doc path 1 EX, and that automatically puts the exit flag. Oh, and then I need, so I'm going to put linked paths. It's going to be path 1. And then for this one, the linked path is going to be path 1EX. It's just the path name. And I believe what this will do is that when this one completes, it'll actually follow the exit path back out. And then, same thing, you can see the segs have different names, have those .001 things on them. And then seg 0 is the start for an exit path, seg 1 is the exit, and seg 2 is so basically it'll come in above, come down to dock, and then it'll leave that way. Let's actually space those out even further. These are all going to have rotation. That one's tolerance 5, speed 5. And I'm actually going to use rotation on all of these because I'm going to try to do a thing where basically it'll spin around as it leaves. Right, that's tolerance 15, say, and this one's tolerance is 10, speed 50-50. Okay, so that's a Corvette path. That's the Corvette dock path. And then I'm going to do on the bottom the fighter. Oh, that's the other thing. The family has to be the same. Corvette. And I don't think you need a latch path there. Path 1. Forgot the MAD because it doesn't have a MAD index. Alright. So now I'm going to do path 2. And its entry path is going to basically be a mirror of path 1. But this is going to be for fighters. Fighter, flags, latch. rotation index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's move these up a bit. 4 goes there. There. So we have 5, use rotation, blah, blah, blah. So all going to be pretty much the same. Tolerance. No flags. 20, no flags. 30, no flags. 40, no flags. Okay. So that's the fighter entry, path 2. And I'm going to double check real quick on the whether or not that's case sensitive, because it'll be really annoying if it's case sensitive. So I'm just going to open up the Iron Carrier example ship real quick. And 0. Dock. Okay, yes, capitals. Okay. Good. Very good. Alright. Cursor selected, and path 2, exit path. Path 2 exit is linked to path 2. It's a fighter. It's an exit path. Path 2 is linked to path 2 at EX. Right. Ortho. Okay. And then that was 5010 use rot. Trap. 0. Same as this, which is use route 55. Okay, and that's the docking paths. So that's all set up. So then, important steps: triangulate the mesh, apply the modifier, triangulate that mesh. I'm not going to worry too much about the collision mesh not matching the actual mesh. Okay, and then we do root mod 0, rotate it on X by negative 90 degrees. And then select everything, apply rotation and scale. Okay, now this is important. After doing that, this is when we go in and set the rotations for the actual joint paths. So the most important thing to always remember is that positive Y is the top of the ship and positive Z is the front of the ship. So if we're matching the rotation, so if the ship is matching the rotation of the dock point, then if it's docking on the bottom, right now, how this is rotated, if we go into, when you have an empty selected, there is this little, sort of the data, though it's not really data, it doesn't treat empty data. If you change that to arrows, and then I'm going to up the size on that a bit, so you can see this is how it's rotated. And as you can see here, so if I put this in game right now and a fighter came to dock to the bottom, it would dock with the top of itself facing this way, which we don't want. So RZ 180, so that puts Y out that way. And actually, if I leave this one exactly how it is, then that means he'll come, assuming I got the space right, he'll face that way and then he'll flip around when he comes out over there, which might be pretty cool actually. So then the other thing I want is, as he leaves, I want him to spin. Yeah, I want him to spin, so he'll flip over to get there, and then as he flies out, then he'll rotate to match that, and then he'll rotate back over to there. I shouldn't be using gender pronouns, whatever. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing with the Corvette one. 10. -90. And he's actually going to spin around, and then he'll, once he hits the end of the path, then he'll right himself, I believe. So, there's 10, RC 180. Okay, so that is the ship just completely done. So that, yeah, once you do that, don't apply rotation, because when you apply rotation to an empty, it flips it back to default. So you just want those empties to stay rotated the way that they are. 20 minutes later. Okay, so while I was doing the thing right before I said 20 minutes later, I encountered a couple of bugs in my process, and so I'm just going to mention them right now. So one thing about the exit paths, if you're doing a latch path, as we are here, the exit path also needs the latch flag. That's very important. And also, there was a bug in the exporter, so that the rotations for the empties were not actually being exported. So I fixed that, and that is now in version 1.093 of the toolkit, so go with that one, not 1.092 like I said earlier. So now that that's all sorted, I'm actually also going to speed this up. I think, I'll speed that up to like 15. I think this is a percentage of top speed, not an actual like speed. Because when I was testing it, like the Scout would go super duper slow coming into here, but the light Corvette was still going pretty quick. So I don't know what's up with that. But alright, so now that I have done those things, I removed the linked paths as well because they didn't. I don't think they didn't seem to be necessary for linking an entry path to an exit path. So I'm not entirely sure what they're for. They may have something to do with the queue flags and things, and all the flags that I don't know what they do or how they work. So okay, so now that all that's done, we export again, test DAE, export DAE. Which one is this? This is not it. Run Hodor again. Then computer if odd ships test odd copy paste to the repair Corvette. You're recording, right? Yeah, okay. Sorry about that getting suddenly loud there. HUD. Alright, and then we just jump back into the game again. There's you. Mothership is going to build repair Corvette. Carrier's going to build light Corvette and a scout. There's our big goofy tugboat.
Roger.
So I tell my scout
Docking underway.
to dock. So he flies over to the first dock point,
Resource collector awaiting orders.
spins around. Here, flips over. So that's still super slow. I don't know why that's so slow. Maybe there's some other thing going on that I need to address.
Docking signal green.
It takes off. And he sort of does the roll, but not really. That didn't work out as well as I wanted it to.
Ready.
And then
Docking underway.
Corvette. Goes to a start. He still goes kind of slow, but when he gets to here and goes down, he's going to be going a lot faster than the scout does. Dock, then takes off. Turns sideways, sort of dips his wing, and spins around and goes back to formation. And that's it. That's how docking paths work. And obviously, there are all the different flags that do different things, and I wish that there were a comprehensive resource for what those were, but I couldn't find one. I think we're still kind of waiting for a lot of documentation for flags and stuff from Gearbox, but Gearbox is also really busy on fixing a whole bunch of different things because, like, doing the.
Reporting.
They now have the. Not Z.
Repair order confirmed. Copy. Confirmed. We have friends.
Like, the repair gun is now a thing.
Confirmed.
Let's see if he actually uses the repair gun or if that's using a.
Repairs initiated.
Yep, there he goes. So that's weird. I guess there's a little bit more to setting up the repair gun than I was aware of. But yeah, that's how everything works. So, have fun making ships that things can dock to again. And this will be it for this tutorial. Next on the docket for in addition is I still got to do the large ship conversion, which is going to involve creating a material, automatically creating and assigning a material for engines. And then I've got this idea for doing Hodor integration into Blender that will work similar to the SMD tools for doing source engine stuff, but that's going to be a ways off. Alright, thanks for watching this tutorial, and, subscribe if you want, share it, please do share it, and I'll have more stuff as more stuff gets added. Oh, yeah, I probably should do a turret tutorial, but turrets get into ship file editing, which I'm still not very good at. But that's it for me. Have a nice day.